Hi, I'm Shannon from Rhode Island, and the handsome gentleman to the right of your screen is my oldest son, Cameron. He does not have NPC, and the little guy is my youngest son. His name is Chase, and he retired from his battle with Niemann-Pick type C on December 1st, 2016, at 7 years, 3 months, and 10 days old. So his official diagnosis came the day he turned 25 months old. His diagnostic journey parallels most other families here. In utero, I was certain something was wrong. I'm high risk, being a type 1 diabetic, was very closely watched. We did basic genetic testing, but we didn't do amnio to look for any rare genetic abnormalities. Everything looked normal, but my unease persisted. My son's life was remarkable, and he brought many people a lot of joy. I'm just not sure I would have let him suffer through it if I knew what he was in for. Chase's life was his illness. He was born with a catch-all diagnosis of cholestatic liver disease and an enlarged spleen. He suffered blood work every few days for the first 6 weeks of his life. We were living in Florida at the time, and we couldn't rule out biliary atresia, so he had to fly to Cincinnati at 10 weeks old to consider doing a procedure called a Kasai. He didn't need it. They ran a full genetic panel on him at that time, but nobody tested for NPC. So he was labeled failure to thrive. Specialized formula was needed. He had low muscle tone, and his eyes even seemed off. And later we learned what I was describing was supranuclear gaze palsy. And we moved for what would have been the second of 4 states in 3 years to seek answers and treatment. A pediatrician in Vermont stepped in, and she got him tested for NPC, and at the same time hooked us up with every conceivable support service. He had PT, OT, speech, hydrotherapy from about 18 months on. When we saw a dietitian for him, and we were putting butter on his butter, but he remained very underweight. We added a drug for glycosphingolipidosis within 2 weeks of his formal NPC diagnosis, and within 4 months, we were fortunate enough to get him on compassionate IV use of a compound. And it was at that time he finally began to add language, walked assisted, laughed, and for the first time, he made some decisions for himself. A series of events led to a clinical hold on his compassionate IV compound trial, and it was ultimately lifted. However, he was off this compound for 8 months, and when you have such aggressive mutations, it meant his disease was very quickly able to take hold, and we almost lost him. Chase could barely sit unassisted when he left the hospital in late 2012 at the age of 3, within a week of restarting his infusion. He's a true testament to what early treatment can do to delayed disease. Once it takes hold, it's nearly impossible to recover the things you've lost. Now, his bedroom was better equipped than most hospital rooms. We had a pulse ox, BiPAP, cough assist, oxygen concentrator, every conceivable wheelchair, play chair, stander, feeding pumps, adjustable bed, and he had every sensory toy, every specialist at his disposal. And he had everything except the freedom to move or to speak. During the course of his 7 years, he had to have operations for hip dysplasia and more full leg casts. He was fed via a tube. Towards the end of his life, in the last few months, his med list contained 17 different medicines, compounds, or therapies. His life was a series of medicine doses, physical therapy, and naps. He survived on painkillers around the clock to help with neuropathy and dystonia. His seizures were not a large part of his course, and we were able to keep his seizure meds at a stable dose for years using a compounded oil. Through it all, we think he was happy. He laughed often, and he absolutely lit up when his brother spent time with him. We outfitted an RV with a hospital room so he could travel around and make some friends. But Niemann-Pick C took more than just my son Chase's childhood. It forced his brother to sacrifice his as well. He knew, and he wasn't shy about telling ER staff, that you need a 3/4-inch needle to access his brother's port, or that vancomycin's an antibiotic not to be given. So my surviving son and I have PTSD. We don't sleep well. We sometimes hear the pulse ox in the middle of the night still. And we're learning what it means to live without him to care for. Now, Chase's life was one medical procedure after another, but he never complained. He met every day with a huge smile for all of us, and he was an incredible little boy. And I'm so proud to be Chase's mom, and I'm so proud to share a little bit about his journey with all of you. And I thank you all for listening. Appreciate it.